mom came into the room and she's like, look at my phone. And then I couldn't see it, so I had to look at mine. I'm like, oh.
I can't bet against Tom Brady. I have the Bucks winning 31-27 and Tom Brady going to his 10th championship.
Yeah, and I really think the Clippers' chance to win the championship was last year. And they were up 3-1 against the Denver Nuggets.
Chris Paul is one of the most underrated players of all time. He's been the best player wherever he goes, and that includes with the Rockets.
You said you can't bet against Tom Brady, and as a Cowboys fan and what I just did last weekend, I am not going to bet against Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl. I mean, that's all I can really say. There's two of the top 5 players in the league, and they are very, very good.
Hello, I'm Taylor Hearn, and you listen to the Outsiders' Opinions with Kevin and Austin.
What's up, y'all? Welcome to our MLB Opinions of the week. We've been doing a lot of them, but it's because we're just getting ready for the season. I'm Kevin, and I'm joined by our ace, Austin.
Well, I didn't know you were going to pull that one out of the bag. I mean, ace, I don't know if I've reached that yet. My prediction stretches is not as consistent as I'd like it. I did just win our March Madness one, which we'll review sooner rather than later.
Oh, okay.
But
I thought you were like, you won the bracket, and I was like, wait. And then I figured, I was like, oh, yeah, I remember.
Yeah. The one that we did the other day. But we'll review that sooner rather than later. But I hope to take the spot of base. I appreciate you giving it to me a little bit early. But today we're talking about how much spring training matters. So, Kevin, how much does it matter?
I think I'm in the camp of like it really doesn't matter, and I was like pulling up stats, and I want to make sure because I remember reading about this player and how he was dominating spring training, and like he had a rough couple of years, and I'm like, man, it happened 2 years in a row. I'm like, he's gonna be great. He's gonna be great, and I was telling people about it.
So who's this?
And that player?
Oh, okay.
Huh?
Okay. I was making sure we're gonna get a name drop.
Yeah, the player is Rougned Odor. In 2015, he had a 318 average. 2016 had a 349. Then he had 219 in 2017, 200 in 2018. In 2019, I believe 2015 and 2016 were his really good years. And then he had a down year. And then in 2019 had a 318 average, 314 average, and I'm pretty sure that did not translate in the regular season because in 2018, he had a 253, but in 2017 he had a 204 average and a 205 average. So it just didn't translate.
Do you think players should try to rest themselves as much as possible in spring training, or should they use that to actually get ready for the season? And we obviously just saw Reese Hoskins probably going to be out for the year with the ACL tear. Now, people can come back within the length of an MLB season because of how long an MLB season is. I would not be utterly shocked if he came back in 8 months and was back in time for playoff baseball. If he was back in 7.5 to 8 months, that'll be a very hard task. But I've seen crazier stuff. But do you think they should be sitting players, or how much should that be used to warm up before a season? What's your thoughts on that?
I think if they want to try a new approach, like they should try it in spring training, like at the beginning. But I kind of view it as like a warm up. Like I wouldn't play a player every single day. Like I'd probably do it like, all right, let's just get some rest. I mostly view it as like the preseason, and like I want to get you some like trial runs because like you have the first game, you play like 5 minutes football wise. Then second game, do like 10 minutes.
Now there's only 3 games. There's not 4 anymore. So it does change that math a little bit.
Yeah, that's true. So one is probably like a quarter. Then I do a half for the second game. And then I play a quarter again in the third game.
Yeah.
Like I just want to give it trial run. Like just get some nice rest in.
Yeah, and I do think that's important because you do not want your best players getting hurt or doing something that is disadvantageous. You don't want them getting really cold before the season starts as well because that could affect their morale because you're not facing the best pitchers all the time. You're facing Double A, Triple A, Single A, rookie ball pitchers sometimes that are trying to prove themselves, and for those guys, it is their regular season. I know they have obviously the minors coming up, but if they can really impress a team in spring training, some of those young guys, they're going to be playing with a lot of fire, and they know that this is their opportunity to be seen on the same field as some major leaguers, and guys can make an impact. But you really do have to watch how much you're playing some people, even if they're not on your major league team, because it can affect them before the season starts.
Yeah, I agree. And I kind of view it more on like if a younger player is doing really well, I'm like, okay, because he is facing MLB competition for the first time, really. So I kind of take more stock in them. But if they're doing terrible, I probably just send them to AAA and I'll call them up. Another thing about the Reese Hoskins was he was just fielding the ball, and to me, it was just a non-contact injury, which was just startling to me because we saw Brandon Nimmo, I think, sprained his knee. Um, but that was when he was going into the base. So it was just weird, and I think it's just one of those freak injuries. Um, but yeah, I just view it as a preseason, and I don't take a bunch of stock into it.
Would you rather your star player in a season like this play in the World Baseball Classic or the or spring training? Because both of that can obviously, as we saw with Edwin Diaz, that's a very unfortunate injury what happened. But would you rather your star player playing that where it's more intense and you're probably getting more live game action with more stakes, or would you rather them play in spring training, take it easy, not get hurt?
Uh, I think from a player, well, from like an owner, I would tell him like I don't want you to play, but I get why players play, and I think it was a good thing that a lot of players played. But I know a lot of American pitchers were like, we're not going to play, and so I get it. I understand both sides. The Diaz thing was just a freak injury, like you
Yeah,
said,
that's a fluke. Yeah.
and like I know the people on Twitter, um, were like cancel the WBC, but I was like, no, it's great. I didn't watch all of it, but I watched the final game.
Yeah, you watched the last episode of a TV show almost. I didn't watch every game, but I checked in a good bit. I watched the majority of the U.S. games. I watched some of the Japan games as well because, I mean, those teams with Shohei, Yu Darvish, and obviously everyone on the U.S. team, they're just so good. I enjoyed watching those, and um, I definitely think it's good for the sport watching the WBC. But I do understand why some players opt out because it's right before the season. It's right before. There is no little layoff. I mean, I guess there's a little bit of a week or so layoff because opening day is on the 30th, and the WBC ended on the 21st, I believe. So there's like 9 days off, but that's not enough for your body to fully recoup if you're a pitcher. Sometimes if you have been pitching a lot in the WBC for a lower country, a country that's not always as good, so you're really their ace, their only big guy, and you're really trying to power them through. But it is something that you have to watch out for if you have some injury concerns with the player. Maybe tell them not to play.
Yeah, and I'm the timing is weird to me. Like, why right before the season? Um, but I was curious. I was gonna bring it up. I was gonna try to bring it up in the intro. If we're gonna transition to a little bit WBC, if you're cool with that. What did you think of the final at bat?
It was a great competition between two great players. I do think Shohei had a major advantage though because Shohei had the opportunity to pitch against him, obviously in practice before, and Trout's been on and off with injury. But I mean, Shohei's such a good pitcher, and it was a joy to watch. But it's something that I'm not really surprised with the result at this time in the season when Trout's normally in spring training mode and Shohei's playing for his country that is so passionate about baseball. I mean, it's two different levels.
Yeah, I get what you're saying, like analyzing that bat, but just the moment of the two best players in the world in their sport playing.
against each other. Yeah, it was a. I mean that would be like having a finals between. And you may not agree that these are the two best players, but they're at least the two top MVP candidates. Having like a 76ers Nuggets final,
Yeah.
like where we saw Jokic against Embiid in the final, like that would be crazy. That would be crazy. And that's really what this was. Now, obviously, we'll never be able to see this unless one of them gets traded on the grand stage, on the World Series stage. But to see it here, it was a nice treat. And we'll always have this moment, even if they're on the same team for the rest of their careers.
Yeah. I thought, I was like, this is incredible, them playing against each other, and they're on the same team. To me, it reminded, I know we have different thoughts on the World Cup. It just reminded me of the World Cup, Mbappe versus Messi. Even though he's not the top player.
The problem with that analogy, in my opinion, is that they're never actually playing against each other.
Oh,
They never are.
gotcha.
Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Do
like
you understand what I'm saying?
Messi's not
It's not
defender.
Messi against Mbappe. It's not Messi against Mbappe. It's Messi against the French defenders and Mbappe against the Argentine defenders, and obviously the goalkeeper and all that. But they're not actually facing off against each other.
Yeah,
It, it,
I get what you're saying.
it's sort of kind of facing off, but it's not. And that is the beauty of baseball is one on one. I'm pitching to you, you're hitting off of me. It is the only sport based purely on one-on-one abilities. You know, in basketball, for example, it's more of a team. There's people that are probably really bad at one-on-ones can still make the NBA because it's a team sport. You're good at team defense. You can hit open threes. You can make good off-ball movement. Maybe you can't dribble that well, or you don't have that great size-up game. But in baseball, that 1v1 happens a ton of times throughout the game. And I know there's people behind the pitcher, and if the batter gets out, the inning isn't over, the game isn't over. But it's a true test of wills between two people, and it was beautiful to watch.
Yeah, I agree. And yeah, now to bring it back to spring training, I am curious spring training players versus like Trey Turner and just how hot of a start he's had. Because in spring training they're probably just trying stuff. Who do you think was the hottest player in spring training?
It's really tough to say. I did not. I don't think I watched enough or looked into it enough to know who the hottest player was. I can name a good bit of Yankees that were very good, like Volpe, who played very well. Peraza obviously struggled a little bit, but it's really up to circumstance because, like you said, people are trying stuff out. So people can have a very successful spring training and have terrible counting stats or even just stats in general because they found out that doesn't work. Let me go back, or this does work, and what I did before doesn't work. So even if you don't have the greatest stats, it doesn't mean that spring training or anything like that was not successful.
Yeah. Yeah, I wasn't really sure too, but I had an idea and I looked at it. So Corey Seager, apparently in spring training, he only had 47 at bats, but he had a 468 average, a 519 OBP, and a 1.264 OPS. How do you?
Those are pretty good stats.
And then I don't know what um, Trey Turner's stats were in the W. I just know he'd been hitting bombs in in the but. Okay, so he had 368 batting average, 429 OBP, and then 1,000 OPS. So I would probably say Trey Turner continues to play well versus where Corey Seager might hit a snag. I'm not sure.
Well, and something you have to look at is Trey Turner's on a new team, on a new organization, obviously playing with new players. But again, hitting wise, he could stay hot because again, it's a 1v1. It doesn't matter who you're on your team with you. You control whether you get a hit or not. So I would not be surprised to see him continue to play well.
Yeah. And then if we want to talk about another guy, we to bring it back from WBC, I believe Shohei's stats were ridiculous. Man, why aren't they showing me his stats? He finished the WBC with a 435 batting average. So I would just think Trey Turner and Otani start off better than Seager. But I'm curious to see how the players that participate in WC affects them now, like going into the start of the season.
Yeah, I mean, we'll find out because, like you said before, it is preseason. It's spring training. The stats do not mean all that much, or at least as much as the players sometimes want it to mean. But that's why you play the entire season, and obviously those guys may have a leg up because they're hot now, and if they can carry it into the start of the year, they'll have a lot of success.
Yeah. Yeah, a little bit more open discussion, but I'm excited, and I hope did that cover what you wanted to cover?
Yeah, I mean, I just wanted to talk about spring training,
All
so
right.
and
Sounds
that's
good.
what we did.
We'll make sure for our listeners that we check in on Otani, Trey Turner, and Seager because I think that's a good idea, and then we'll check on Volpe if he starts.
Okay, that sounds good.
All right. That's all we got. Thank you for listening to Outsiders Opinions.